Yo guys, what is up? Welcome back to more Zero Hour. Welcome to a quick discussion on the Generals game patch that is ongoing. Some people tout it as the 1.04 plus patch, but I think the name probably in the future will change or needs to change. On this video, I'm just basically going to go through the GitHub website and go through a number of different issues, say where I think I agree with the change needs to be looked at or a bug needs to be fixed, and also where I think the people behind this might be veering off a little bit. I'm still like, when we talk about this game patch, I'm still in like two kinds of minds. So I'll explain from the beginning. So the competitive community, or most of Zero Hour players at the moment, are all using the official 1.04 patch that EA released. I don't know if it was in 2003 or 2004, but basically, yeah, they did a few patches. I think, I don't even know if I played all the patches. I've always played pretty much 1.04. And that's the one we use. It does have loads of bugs in it. Yes, it's got imbalances, like no eco is overpowered against tank, and Air Force is overpowered against pretty much everything, especially like Super Weapon and the other USAs. So yeah, there are big problems with it, and a big part of this patch discussion that's going on the forums at the moment is where people have become attached to this patch, like 1.04, me included. There's an element of that as well, but especially like more experienced players and anyone who's played it for like 20 years, you can become a bit attached, even if there are imbalances and stuff like that. I think if in the beginning in 2003, when you had patch 1.04, if then another patch got released like pretty much straight after, when people were still getting used to the game and it was like kind of forced upon everybody and it was released by EA Games, I think you could have at that point made big bold changes, like for example maybe even removing Humvees from Air Force, for example, and I think you would get very little pushback because people were still getting used to the game. It would be an official patch, you'd have no choice but to play it, and probably removing V's from Air Force might actually balance the game a little bit. Whereas if you did it now, everyone would go absolutely berserk because it's all we've known for 20 years. We got used to all these build orders and stuff. So I'm going to try and approach this video in a balanced way, because I need to understand in my own brain that some of these things, like Air Force being completely overpowered, yes, we're used to that over the last 20 years, but should that always be the case going forward? Or is a game boring and bland when everything is exactly a 50-50 matchup? Is it better to have, like in team games, you see, okay, there's an Air Force, we need to target him and stuff like that. So we need to take it a balanced approach. I'm basically just going to go through this GitHub website. I'm going to mention some of the changes, and also where I think the developers or people involved in this, there's like a few people to give a shout out to, like Zezon, Relax, mainly driven by Zezon. MT King is here as well. This guy here is Exile. But mainly this is being driven by Zezon. And I want to give a shout out to Zezon because he's the guy responsible for Gentool. He's the reason probably the game is still alive, because without Gentool, probably a lot of people would still be cheating in the game, and it would be very hard to arrange matches and stuff and tournaments without Gentool. And there's gentool.net/data where you can see everyone's replays, and it helps me make a load of videos. So massive shout out to Zezon. And if we didn't have Zezon, we'd probably just be stuck with patch 1.04, and we would not even have the possibility, even if we wanted to, create another patch. Well, maybe we would. Maybe we'd have some other guys, but without Zezon especially, he's like a big brain behind Zero Hour for sure. Super smart and very dedicated to Zero Hour. And yeah, without him, we probably wouldn't even be discussing such a video as this, or a patch 1.04 plus with all these mega bug improvements and stuff like that. That said, I don't think he's an absolutely perfect guy, and I think sometimes we are maybe veering off the course of where I think personally a patch should go. So for example, if I was to look at a patch and I had the capability of doing all these changes and it was all my responsibility, the first few things I would look at when creating a patch would be, what are the current issues that the most of the community wants to get rid of? So for example, you probably start with like mismatches, disconnects, no loads, like on Radmin when you're about to start a tournament and one player doesn't load and you have to redo the whole thing. Lag, DC screen bugs. Probably if we were talking about new features, you'd probably want a quick match and want an elo system. If we were talking about balancing, you'd probably look at no eco and how can we sort that out. Air versus USAs, for example, buffing China a little bit, fixing all the bugs. Those are kind of things that would pop into my mind as some of the first things you would look at. And rather than do like a million changes and then reveal it to the community and then the whole game is completely changed, I'd probably want to do it in stages. Like, you'd probably start with just the bug fixes and maybe a buff for China a little bit, and you'd probably start that as number one. And then maybe later down the line, then you'd be like, okay, now we're going to try and nerf Air Force a little bit because it's too overpowered against the USAs. But that, yeah, so that's the kind of thing I'd be thinking of. But I see some of the changes in this GitHub website, and it just like my brain just can't really handle it. But let me know what you think. So this is GitHub, first of all, this website. If we click on this game's Generals game patch, like, you can see the link there at the top. I'm going to share this in this video description. It will take you to this page. I'm not a master on GitHub. In fact, 99% of this stuff I haven't read. But what I will show you is how to find what I think is the best way to find the issues and discussions and stuff like that, which is mainly in this issues and pull requests. So if we go to issues, GitHub, by the way, I think is like for programmers and coders and developers, and it's like a really easy way to like list everything, and everyone can collaboratively add comments and stuff. So you could even sign up here and start adding comments and whatever. So for example, if I've clicked issues now, it's got in the search bar, is an issue, and it is open. So you see it's like written in what I think is a coder's or programmer's way, which only just makes sense to me. That's just about as far and advanced as I can get. And then you can basically see anything that is an issue and is open currently. So for example, someone has suggested that in Zero Hour, maybe you would want to select the next unit with the tab key. I think selecting next unit could be something, whether it has to be the tab key or not, because you press tab and the scoreboard normally appears. But I think selecting next unit wouldn't be a bad hotkey to have. There's like issues with the GLA black market issues, and if you click on that, you could then see what their issue is. So Zezon, like, just even coming up with these screenshots is a lot of work. You can see how much work he's put into it. I'm not going to go into detail on that because, hang on, what's going on here? What's going on? Hang on. Image 4. Okay. I'm not going to read too much into that because that's not the point of this video. But you get the picture. You can see all the open issues, and there's loads and loads of pages. What I like to do also is you can delete this is open bit, and then delete it and just press enter on is an issue. And then, for example, you can see everything that's closed or has been a duplicate or has maybe already been implemented or something like that. So, for example, let's try typing in cargo. So here is an issue marked as controversial, which is another thing. You can click that and it will add controversial in there. So this is where I think we might be veering off a little bit. USA supply drop zone planes are attackable. So this is like, maybe you're on a big DEFCON free-for-all. There's loads of USAs and there's like 20 million supply drop zone planes flying all across the map. Like when you've got a poor PC or a weak PC. The cargo planes are all going to get shot automatically. There's nothing you can do about it, and it might lag the game and whatever. Does that ever really happen in 1v1 games or competitive games? Would probably say less so, unless one of the players has got a weaker PC. But here, basically, they're discussing a few things, whether the plane should just not be attackable altogether, or maybe the plane would be flying across the map and then it would come on the map and then immediately fly off, or maybe it would fly halfway across the map and fly out, or something like that. And yes, that might improve the performance, but among the 1v1 competitive scene and whatever, it's never been an issue raised before. I've never ever in 20 years of playing the game seen someone say, okay, supply drop zone planes need to be either removed or fly directly up into the clouds so you wouldn't be able to shoot them or something like that. So that's like, I mean, this is not major, and it probably will, especially in like Art of Defenses and big free-for-alls and 2v2v2s, improve performance. But among like the 1v1 community and like pretty much ever, I don't think I've ever seen, and I play a lot of free-for-alls and a lot of 2v2s and 2v2v2s and laggy AODs. I've never seen someone complain about the supply drop zones. And I think if you change that, it would change the RAW a little bit, because, for example, it is part of a skill that you wouldn't just leave your air units on guard mode, because then the supply drop zone will send a plane across the map, your planes will automatically attack it and then have to land, and it is annoying. But it also does increase the skill level a little bit, because rather than just putting your planes on guard, you have to keep them flying around. So I think with that, there is definitely good reason that you would want to get rid of it. It improves the performance in certain game types, but It's not one that screams out as like, if I was developing a patch, one of the first things I would look at, like, since I've never heard anyone complain about it before. Does that make sense? Anyway, if you want, I'll leave you to have a read through that, or drop a comment down below, or you can sign up on GitHub and add your comments or whatever. That's just one thing, and that's just an example of how to find an issue. So another thing you could do is you can go to issues. You could get rid of the is open thing, and then you could find one, because the most juicy ones, if we go to page 2 and we find a controversial one, because some of these like bugs that you'll probably, like, what was that? Planes cannot be ordered to land on an airfield if other planes are already assigned to it. Bug like that, I think we'd all be happy if that got fixed. Would change the game a little bit. You'd have to change what you're used to, but it is annoying if planes are already coming to land and they're over on the other side of the map, but you've got a plane that right there that's about to die. You click on it and it won't land, and then it dies. So that's a minor bug. But if we click on controversial, it then adds in this little search thing saying label controversial, and then you can find some more juicy hot topics. China Gatling tank spin up times is inferior to generals. Is that saying to generals? Oh, okay. They're comparing it to the original generals, where generals, the Gatling tank for China would just wreck everything, including USA. So I'm led to believe, even though I didn't play generals that much, I don't think. Demo and toxin GLA ambush are very strong. So maybe they are looking at nerfing that. Add short cooldown to demo suicide ability, spawn fewer rebels. I mean, demo rebel ambush is completely overpowered and completely ridiculous. If you changed it, though, you would be changing the game a lot. Would it not be better? I don't know. Yeah, in 1.06, it did have like a 1 or 2 second delay, and then you've got actually time to react, because when a demo rebel ambush spawns on top of your army, detonates instantly, there's nothing you can do about it. And is that a good part of RTS? I don't know. Will be a big change, though. But yeah, let me know your comments. Comanches are vetted up extremely quick and give off little XP. I do agree with that. They do vet up really quick, and when they do become vetted, they just become pretty much unkillable and just wreck every single game. Probably could be nerfed a little bit. But yeah, maybe we'll come back to this tab. I know this is going to be a bit of a long and rambly one. Maybe we'll come back to that. If we go to this one, though. So, let me... we got to get up paint for this. Right. Right, so in Generals, the game apparently is done on a grid system, I think. So you would have loads of... The map would have a load of grids over it like this. A big grid over it like this. We have to, every video like this, we have to do paint. So all of these are different squares. Yeah, this is just the middle one. So if you send your unit from here and into here, let's say that's a value of 1. But then also you send your unit from here. Let's say you're on Tournament Desert and you go in from the south spot, just up and right a little bit towards the middle, towards like the middle buildings, would be like here somewhere. And then you move it to here. So in maths, if that's a 1 as well, in maths, that distance there is 1.41. So apparently, in Zero, and I haven't done any stringent testing on this, but I'm assuming it's all correct. Apparently in Zero, if you have a Humvee or whatever and you send it over there, it's a value of 1. And you would expect if a Humvee goes from there to there, it would take 1.41. It should take a little bit longer, yeah? But no, apparently in Zero, it basically just takes that as a 1 as well. Apparently due to a bug or whatever, I don't know. So you can actually move faster by 41%. Oh, this is gone. Where's my girth gone on my stick? So you can move 41% faster by going diagonal, because it's treating that as a 1 as well, when actually it should be 1.41. Yeah, hope that makes sense. Paint had to make an appearance. But probably 99.99% of people don't even know that or realize that, or whatever. But Zezon is treating this as a bug, might be a bug, whatever you want to call it, because in diagonal lines, units are moving 1.41% faster. Even if it's a bug, though, nobody in 20 years has ever complained about it. Like, there's been I think there was one tutorial on it about how you should move units diagonally if you want to try and trap something, let's say you want to trap some V's against the side of the map. You might be better in certain circumstances to move in a diagonal line. It might help you trap a helix or something like that. But Zezon's treating this as a bug, and even though down here it's been eventually marked in 2021 as won't change, I recently had this discussion on the forums. I actually think it is happening, despite it saying won't change here, which I find weird, to be honest, that it says that. Because I had the discussion on game replays, so I was trying to understand exactly what it's going to be in this new potential patch, because Zezon's treating it as a bug, and he doesn't think the game should be based on bugs. He thinks the game should be based on logic and maths all behind the scenes and stuff that the players never even knew or really care about. So in the original patch, if the worker was moving from A to B in 10 seconds and A to C in 14 seconds, in the new patch, walking from A to B will now take 12 seconds. So that's a 20% increase from before, and working from A to C in a straight line will take 12 seconds. So that makes... Does that make more sense? Basically, all you need to know is in a diagonal line, you will now move 20% slower. It will take 20% more time to move in a diagonal line. And if you go in a straight line, now it's going to be 2 seconds less, which is a decrease in time by 14.2%. So the whole game speed is going to change because someone has identified a bug in the game that probably 99.99% of people don't care about, even knew about, and never complained about. But because it makes mathematical and logical sense, and because this bug has been identified, the Zezon is basically willing to change the whole game speed. This will affect all build orders and all everything. Because if you think about it, if one of them is changing by 20% and one of them is changing now by 14.2%, in the most extreme case, let's say one player is trying to get to a location and the other player is trying to get to a location to do a sneaky war factory or whatever, the game will now be different by a potential max of 34.2% different to before. They will be arriving... let's say two workers were trying to descend on a location or rendezvous on a location. Now they will be arriving with a difference of 34.2% at a max, if we go off this simple example. So yeah, nobody's ever complained about this. Probably I'm telling you this and you never even heard of this before. But now the whole game speed and all build orders and all sneaky war factories and all that kind of stuff is going to change just because one guy or a couple of guys who barely played a game are willing... have identified behind the scenes some formula or whatever, identified it as a bug, and don't want to base the game on bugs because they think that's a bad way. If you were doing this in 2003 when the game got first released, you probably wouldn't have any issue with that. But because people have been playing it for 20 years and we're all now familiar with the game speed, if you go now suddenly change the whole game speed, this patch, what do you think? It's going to feel like the whole new game with a different game speed, but at least it'll be bug-free behind the scenes. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just baffling. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. But yeah, here's the GitHub page. So Zezon Jendi basically came back here saying it's not worth the fix. It will change gameplay quite a bit. Zezon, no, it would not change the gameplay. Okay. So why then does it say 10 seconds to 12 seconds and 14 to 12? Even though that makes mathematical and logical sense, it is going to change the gameplay, because now I'll be able to build a war factory in a certain location 2 seconds faster or 2 seconds slower, depending on which direction I'm traveling in. Rise and another Zero Hour expert said that it'll change the gameplay and make the game feel too different. I wouldn't recommend it. And Rage said the same. And it's been marked as won't change, but then you check on the forums and actually in the patched version now, it's going to go ahead with these changes. My brain just literally can't handle it. This is not anything I mentioned at the start of the video. This is not covering off mismatches or disconnects or no loads or lag or DC screen bugs or adding a quick match system or an elo system or balancing any of the big issues that people are always complaining about day in, day out. This is just some guy has found some error in the maths behind the scenes that nobody ever even knew about, and is willing to force a change and make it basically an entirely new game or new patch, whatever you want to call it, just because this logic and reasoning and maths behind the scenes don't make sense to him. That's the brutal way of putting it. Here's another one. General's game patch, balancing Air Force laser super weapon in USA. There probably is another tab for this, because I've seen a more detailed discussion of this before, but surely this this is a bigger priority than just going and changing all the game speed against everyone's will. Surely this should be more detailed, or at least easier to find. Maybe I can do a better search for it in a second. Let's have a look. If I type in Air Force and then type in controversial, like crew here has suggested the dozer hunt meta is too common and it's too easy to hunt dozers. He basically suggested reducing all dozers like to $600 and trying to basically eliminate dozer hunting from the game. So dozer hunting is a big part of the game. If you sell your CC, you take the risk, or you have to use a little bit of skill to triangular box or to proper box on a supply. Yeah, for that reason. Wait, he also suggested something else. He also made one he called it like adding machine guns to helicopters, and I don't even know what he's referring to as helicopters, but I guess he's talking about Chinooks. So for those couple of reasons, I can't really say I take many of his suggestions seriously anymore, because that would also affect Air Force. He wanted to basically, he must be talking about giving machine guns to Air Force Chinooks. Oh man, it's funny. Okay, what was we looking for again? We were looking for balancing air. Reduce effectiveness of USA all in. See, that's what I'd like to see a proper discussion on. It's not an easy thing. It's going to be extremely difficult to do that. It's like here, Ryzen is saying basically it should something that should definitely be looked at. Like that's the kind of discussion. Look how long this is. That's the kind of discussion we need on how to make no eco less effective. I think I'm not a game developer, of course, but I do see what people do in other games. Like for example, in Counter-Strike Go, there was a gun. Is this the best way to describe? Nah. I think you're better off doing buffs for other factions rather than nerfing something. I think people react better to that. If Humvees suddenly become useless and Humvee Rush suddenly becomes not a thing because the Humvees are too weak or they don't kill buildings as fast as they used to or whatever, I think that's bad. But I think buffing other stuff might be a better way of balancing things. Yeah. There's other good things like Battle Bus will enter its bunkered mode at 50% health when shot with toxin or radiation. This is a very annoying thing. You've got a Battle Bus like this. Yeah, you go. You see it's got load of HP there. You saw that? But it takes one tox shell now probably from the Scorpion. Or two. And it got to 50%, and as soon as it drops like 49% health, it instantly gets hull moded. That's a bug, very annoying, affects me every single day. I would be glad to have a massive discussion on that about how it can be sorted out. Did Ryzen comment here? Because Ryzen usually is a voice of reason. But that's something that definitely needs looked at. Yes, it will change the game. You've got to be careful then about gamma buses and battle bus spam just in general. Is it going to become too overpowered? But because that will change the balance by itself. That's another thing. Just fixing the bugs in Zero Hour will change the balance all by itself. Scrap crates can be removed by placing scaffolds. So this is a big controversial one for sure. It probably, it is marked as controversial. So basically, in Zero Hour, let's say you're a China or you're against a GLA, you send a few GATs and flamers out, or you've got some trucks a little bit vulnerable. A technical with RPGs comes in, kills those units or kills them trucks, gets the scrap and turns into a super tech, and single-handedly wins the game because it's just so overpowered and so unkillable. So a way to counter that as the China player is you will do what's called a scrap deny. So you will place a scaffold of a barracks or a bunker or whatever you want on top of the scrap, and it'll delete the scrap. You could say that's a little bit silly, the fact that it has to be done. There surely could be a better mechanic or a better way around it to deny the scrap of the GLA, or maybe trucks shouldn't leave scrap behind or something. But this is one where people have become used to it for over the course of 20 years. And as soon as you start changing things here, I believe that balance is a big jigsaw puzzle, and immediately things will all change. So, some of the suggestions here: should trucks and dozers leave scrap? Well, if you did that, it will feel a little bit weird, but I suppose super tech would become less common. But also, then if you're removing the scrap deny will no longer be a thing, which is kind of silly anyway. But also you're reducing the skill level, because doing a scrap deny actually requires quite a bit of speed, and you have to control group something like a worker or a dozer to try and scrap deny. So you're reducing the skill level. Should USA and China be able to collect scrap? I think we all know that GLA is the one that should be collecting scrap. It makes sense given that the faction is designed around salvaging things and making its units stronger based on that. If USA and China were able to suddenly scrap up as well, I think it makes the game a bit ridiculous and a bit silly. But yeah, that's one. Yeah, that's one. Another one where it's like it is a bug, but people have become used to it. But if you suddenly then made the super tech worse, made the super tech worse, it does change the game a lot. I mean, yeah, that's a difficult one. But I don't think the scrap deny should be removed just because it doesn't make sense and it's a bad design. Yeah, I mean, there's different ones here. Add clear scrap ability to a China truck. Add clear scrap ability to dozers. Yeah, this is not an easy one. But Zezon clearly sticks to game design and logic and stuff like that. Game design, wise, it makes sense that scaffolds should not make things disappear. It sounds like they want to get rid of it, but then yeah, if you get rid of scrap deny, then what are you going to do about the super tech? I don't know, man. It is a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, that one. You let me know your thoughts on that one. There's no easy answer. Here's another one. This is one where I think we're veering off on the root cause of why there should be a patch in the first place. Zezon basically thinks that some things throughout the different factions should be uniform or should be streamlined or should be the same. So, for example, here he's basically saying that the shroud range of the USA Burton should be from 500 to 400, because that matches the other heroes. So that would basically go take it from a Colonel Burton there in the middle, reveals all of that lot, which is quite an insane. That is quite an insane range to be fair, and that does feel probably more normal. But as Excal says here, has anyone ever worried? Oh, as he said, has this ever worried you when playing Zero Hour? I don't think anyone's ever thought about it before. To be honest, I don't think anyone's ever complained about. Burton having 500. Well, basically, it's a 20% extra range, isn't it? Is it 20%? No, 25% extra range than the other heroes. But then if we're going by that approach, then you would say, okay, the USA Ranger, he's saying the Shroud range for the USA Ranger is 400. The GLA Rebel's only 300. So what, are we going to make them all uniform then? Are we going to give China Red Guard a boost to 300 and the USA Ranger down to 300 just because it makes them all look nice in the table and so they're all the same? I just don't understand the reasoning. All the heroes are different. Jean Mankel can snipe something. Burton's got a machine gun and Lotus doesn't have a gun at all. So should we give Lotus a gun just to match the other ones as well? I don't understand the reasoning. USA does have insane scanning ability anyway. You've got the scan down there. You've got a drone. You've got the intelligence. You've got sentry drones that nobody uses. To be honest, this is minor, and I probably overall agree with it if we're thinking logically. but it's changing the game a little bit, and I'm just not like the rationale is to match the other hero units. Well, if okay, you match the other hero units, then we need to give Lotus a gun. We need to make all of these the same. And then by the time you start applying that logic to everything, you've got a completely different game. Everything's got different vision and different different guns. I mean, okay, Colonel Burton costs what, 1,200 for super weapon, but Black Lotus and Jean Mankel cost 1,500. Okay, we're gonna make the prices the same then, to be more uniform. I don't know. I just don't understand the reasoning sometimes. But in the grand scheme of things, it does feel a bit mental. He has 500 actually. He probably could do with 400. But yeah, that's that one. USA Bombardment and Hold the Line battle plans are rarely used. It's true, Hold the Line is used sometimes, like when you're Air Force, you know you're going to get artillery and stuff like that. It is used. Bombardment, when do you ever see that? I think one good thing you could do about bombardment is at least make the gun fire in all locations. I don't think there's ever been a video or a tutorial or an image to show where the bombardment gun can actually shoot, because sometimes it can't shoot like right next to it, or like where you think it plainly could, but it can shoot to the same range in another direction. It's very weird. Maybe bombardment needs to have 25% or something like that. That's one I think people would be willing to discuss. Search and Destroy is very powerful because you can shoot 20% further, and it's, even though you got 20% extra damage, you can start taking damage before you can even get into range, and in that case you might be dead. So that's why Search and Destroy is so overpowered. And it also, Search and Destroy detects stealth. I think actually Bombardment, if that detected stealth, that might help balance it a little bit. Hold the Line could maybe give a little bit more HP to other buildings. I think it doubles its own HP, but does it give 10% to all other buildings? Something like that. That's something that I think is discussable, unlike the whole game speed being changed, which is this one. USA Pathfinder is very strong. Do agree with this one. It's only $600 and it basically wrecks giant infantry, and it wrecks Jean Mankel as well. For a $600 unit that's not a hero, wrecking Jean Mankel just feels a little bit weird. Should maybe take multiple shots to kill Jean Mankel, something like that. That's one I agree with. This one is a very, very controversial and tricky one. This is the GLA quad cannon. And how I always say in videos, if you... Wait, can I make this big? I always say in videos, if you don't get the scrap if you've got a quad cannon with veterancy, because if you've got a vet 1, it does 120% extra damage. If you've got a... So that's... If that, I'm reading that right, if it did 100 damage before, and you got 120% increase, it's now doing 220% damage? So sorry, 220 damage? And if you were doing 100 damage before, now you're doing 240. So getting vet 1 more than doubles your DPS, which is kind of crazy. And then getting vet 3 just makes it insanely strong. Gets loads of HP. You can see the HP down here as well. But yeah, the problem becomes when you've got scrap. Sorry, when you've got veterancy and then you get scrap, it actually does less damage, which doesn't make sense. But this is the most common, one of the most common units in the entire game, maybe the most common unit in the entire game. So you better be very careful when you're changing this. If you suddenly go and nerf all of these, for example, then the game, every single game in Zero Hour where there's a GLA will feel different, because every GLA can make a quad. How many times have you seen a 3v3 DEFCON like with DK Crazy involved when you don't see 200 quads on the screen at one point? So yeah, that's going to change the game a lot. I think there are various different things here, but it needs to be very, very carefully done and implemented, because it could change the game a hell of a lot. I mean, since we're just rambling anyway, this is not like a perfect video. Let's just go back to, let's go to pull requests actually. And then we will go to get rid of is open. Press enter. Let's just see if we can find any more juicy ones. Oh, there's one I want to show you. There's one I want to show you. Let's see, door. Command center door animation, damage transitions. Door open. Change China War Factory door time. Is that the one? Powered arms dealer. Door still open. Um, this is the one where I think we're veering off again. I think USA. So USA War Factory in the current patch opens 3,225 milliseconds. China War Factory opens in 4,000 milliseconds. Is that 4 seconds? Yeah, I think 4 seconds. Basically, they want to change it. The original USA War Factory was that, and they would basically want to make it slightly longer. I have no idea why. Maybe Zezon doesn't like the 50. Prefers it to end in the 00. China War Factory before was 4,000. China War Factory now 3,300. I kind of can see a reason for this, even though we'll read the rationale in a second and we'll figure it out. Like, this could help against no eco. If your War Factory could build a unit and then get the unit out a little bit quicker, it might be the difference between being able to stop a no eco or not. So this could be kind of good. But why change the USA one? Has anyone ever complained about the USA one? Even if it's changing by 0.05 of a second or whatever value that is. Why? I don't know. Let's read the rationale. Factory door is added on top of production time. This means when a vehicle shows ready in the production queue, it takes the door to fully open so it can spawn. Yeah, we all know that. The original 4 seconds to make this is an awfully long experience compared to USA and GLA. So that's the China War Factory bit. Yeah, okay, I agree. It is an awfully long time. On top of that, the visual showed the door open for 2 seconds until the vehicle spawns, which makes the wait more painful to anticipate. True, as the vehicle does not spawn after the second. Yeah. Reducing the door time and adjusting animation will make it more consistent with the USA and makes the mechanic easier to anticipate. Inherently, this makes all China factions produce vehicles quicker. If vehicles produce too quickly because of it, we'll have to revisit. Well, it doesn't say the rationale there for changing the USA one, even though we're talking about 0.05 seconds or whatever. Is it because the opening and close time needs to be the same? Oh, no, wait. Door close time was 4,000 before. So why is the door close time changing? I don't know. I don't know. I do not know. So patched version. The original version. Is painful. It is going to make all the Chinas more powerful, though. So I'm thinking, like, let's say you are super weapon, you're on Vendetta, and you're against the China tank. China tank can now produce units quite a bit faster. Every unit will be like 0.7 seconds faster out of the war factory. So when I said before, balance is like a jigsaw. What happens now? Super weapon now gets wrecked harder against the tank on Vendetta. Now what do you do? Now what do you do? Jindy says seems good. There is definitely 4 seconds is too long, and it doesn't match the USA. Yeah, correct. Why is the USA changed? There's no rationale for that, but it's getting changed anyway, boys. It's not in the rationale, but don't just gloss over the fact that changed. Door closes time changed. Gloss over that as well. But yeah, what it does say it will need to be revisited. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm telling you now, it's going to change things. Change things a lot. If all Chinese can now spam 0.7 seconds faster on every single unit, super weapon is going to get raped harder now on Vendetta than it did before by a tank. And it probably got wrecked before anyway. It probably forces a no eco even more. So you got to be very careful. Wait. Let's go back to... Wait, not that one. Go back to here. But yeah, I think he's trying to change the... Is he trying to change the command center door opening time as well? I think that is. Let's just do a search on pull issues. Controversial. Just pick maybe one or two more. Wrap this video up in 45 minutes. Yeah, there's the USA Burton. What's this one? Match level of XP of GLA combat bike with Jean Monkel. Okay. Optimize battle bus locomotor. Okay. Tweak USA drone shroud ranges. Increase XP reward for a minigunner. I think infantry in general doesn't give that much XP. Like, you don't get any XP for killing the outpost, and then you get very little for killing each of the infantry inside, so that probably does need looking at. We'll change the game. But again, just fixing all these tiny little things, it will add up to being a lot. Like, if you change 1% here, 1% there, 1% there, and then you release all these bug fixes, each of them being 1%, then suddenly you've got a 50% change if you do a lot. Increased GLA truck. Bomb truck probably does need a bit of a boost. It doesn't get used that much. Reduce Air Force Comanche armor healing by 10% before upgrade. Don't even know what that is. Increase China nuke cannon and China inferno cannon armor against infantry missiles by 100%. Is that happening?
Just get me in close.
Welcome to new subscriber, whoever that was. Won't change. Okay. I can think that might cause some issues if you give it 100% extra. Did die a bit easy, but I'm just thinking, like, when you got a big Overlord and ECM army. Overlord, ECM, and nuke cannon. That's too much, man. That's too much. Whoa. It becomes like an Overlord itself, almost. Yeah, that's too much. The idea of that is it's like a glass cannon, and it dies easy, but it also dishes out crazy damage. Don't think anyone complained about that before. Glad that's not happening. Then again, some things are marked as won't change on here, but apparently they're still happening, so I wouldn't take that as gospel truth. Okay, let's just have I don't know what this purple sign means. Merged. Okay. There's a thing about the Scud Storm. Summon a Scud Storm is when you kill it to the hole, it leaves a toxin puddle, which then means it can't start rebuilding straight away because then the worker dies to the toxin and then it takes a time again to rebuild. So that's another minor thing. Didn't really realize that before. Like GLA Demolition probably will rebuild it faster because it doesn't leave the puddle, for example. What else can we find in this list? Remove point defense laser from USA Air Force carpet bomber. Is that happening? Don't know if that's happening. All of the USA Air Force Generals promotions have no point defense laser, including the B-52 bomber that delivers the MOAB. But the USA Air Force General does not need this on it to be useful either. Flies much faster. Okay, so basically, without discussion, it sounds like PDL is going to get removed from the carpet bomb. Okay, carpet bomb is a bit overpowered, but are they also going to change the carpet bomb to not be used until level 2? No, wait, level 3? I don't know. So now you'll be able to shoot it down with RPGs a lot easier. You'll be able to be shot down by stingers easier, like late game GLA. Yeah. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. I think you get the picture. I personally think most of these changes make sense, or at least are worth looking into. But some of the things need to be a little bit more thought. If all units are coming out faster from the all war factories just because the door times doesn't make sense to a few people, then the balance is going to have a big impact. This unit's moving in diagonal lines just completely blows my mind. Yeah, there's the seconds and things before. Yeah, I'm yet to see any amazing ideas on how to balance Air Force against the other USAs. I would prefer a more detailed discussion on the forums and better ideas about that. There is something I suggested on the forums about, how USA gets like supply lines upgrade and GLA gets worker shoes. One of my favorite upgrades in the game, in case you didn't know. But China doesn't get anything like that. And China's late game, as it goes into fight GLA, is often very weak and you could say overpowered, especially like against the Toxers and stealths and stuff like that. Could China get a new feature for example, improved trucking or improved efficiency or something like that, where you'll get more money from the oils, like supply lines upgrade, and you also get more money from supply trucks as well at a free 10%. Because yeah, we all know that China struggles later game, maybe apart from infantry. So is that something new you could add that is actually solving a problem? China is weak now, and you'd be making it stronger. But some of these things are not solving a problem; they're just done because some guy has determined the formula or whatever behind the scenes doesn't make sense to him. and even though it might be right, he's willing to change the game against everyone's will just because of that. But anyway, yeah, I'm still not fully decided here. Zezor might release this patch, and it might be the most wonderful thing ever, and this movement speed might like make the game 50% better than it already is. And I genuinely hope that's the case, and I hope I'm wrong. But at this point, I'm just exercising my freedom of speech, and I've got some alarm bells going. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong every change that's going on in here. I'm just expressing my thoughts and feelings. If you've got any comments, write it down below. If you've got anything you want to add to specific points, I recommend signing up on GitHub. Once you're on this Generals game patch bit, just go to issues and just go to pull requests, and that's the only thing I know how to do. Just search through the different ones. If you don't want it to be open and don't want it to be a pull request, I guess just press enter, and you probably find every single issue that's ever been. Is that what it did? It looks like it's found loads of things. So then you can have a look through it yourself. Is it due in the next few months, this patch? I don't think so. Who's working on it? I think it's mainly Zezon, but other people are supporting on it as well. There's a few guys I haven't even mentioned yet, like Commie and stuff like that, who know all the detail behind the game code. So I think we're probably still a few years off this, and a few people on the forums are saying, oh, well, just wait and see what it's like. Well, yeah, we are waiting and seeing what it's like, and we are going to obviously help testing it, but that doesn't mean I can't express my opinion on the way, which that's exactly what I'm doing. And people can choose to ignore it or not, or we can just wait for the patch. It's just a healthy discussion, and you let me know what you think in the comments. GG, well played, and I'll see you in the next one.